The Baseball Together Network presents the Philly Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Jason and Tori. And now, Philly Baseball Together.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Philly Baseball Together podcast. My name is Jason, and as always, I am joined by my good friend and wonderful associate, Herschel Kristofsky. No, I'm kidding. It is.
Hey.
How are you, Tori?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I am living the dream. I am wearing the same hat that I have worn since they started this run of wins. I'm taking series from teams, so I'm not switching this hat out until
I like that.
they lose a series.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. So yeah. Boy, they have been playing well, haven't they? What are they? 13-2, I think, in their last 15 games.
They are, and they've taken games from some teams who have had really good seasons thus far. So it's not like they're beating the dregs,
the scrubs,
of the baseball scene.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to some topics at hand. So I think we got to start off with this because the day we are recording, which is June 20th, 2023. Brad and Brig dropped their newest episode of the Baseball Together podcast, the parent podcast of our network here, and they had their Phillies Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
And I have it in our notes. They both took Schmidt, and again, that's the no-brainer. I will say I was a little disappointed. None of them said Michael Jack Schmidt, but I also know that they didn't grow up with Harry Callis doing play-by-play baseball. Brad took Utley, Hamels, and Charlie as his other three.
Charlie.
Brig took Schmidt, Steve Carlton, Grover, Cleveland Alexander, and Ryan Howard. Now, Brig, I think, thought it'd be pretty shocking that he took Grover, Cleveland Alexander, but we're Phillies fans. We know about Grover, Cleveland Alexander. We know about his career, about him being a Hall of Famer. So for me, I was not surprised. And I also think you should have a historical pick on your Mount Rushmore of the team.
I agree with that. And, and even if he's not like super well known, I mean, you can't deny with how good he was also. Now he was on, I believe, and I'm not 100% sure, but was he on the 1915 team?
I looked this up earlier, and I should look it up now, and that's my fault.
Yep. Man, just looking at some of his numbers, especially he was on the 1915 team. Well, let's see. So he had 3 straight years of winning over 30 games. And the year before that, he won 27. His rookie year, he went 28-13. Now, this was, of course, all the way back in, 1911 was his rookie year. And he was on the 1915 team that went to the World Series. I think we lost to the Red Sox. 4-1. But not talking about that, though, or anything. We're not going too deep, I suppose, into Grover, Cleveland Alexander. Who did you have, Jason?
Again, Schmidt, most obvious pick I think you can make. I have Utley representing the 08 team. I have Dutch Dalton representing the 93 team, which my heart wanted to go with Kruk, but I had to look at this objectively. And Dutch was on the team for 10 years by that point. He came up in the farm system. He was truly a Philly in every sense of the word for that team. And then I went with a historical pick, both because they are a Hall of Famer. They had a great career in Philadelphia, but also what they meant to the team post their career by being on play-by-play with Harry was Richie Ashburn.
Yep. Old Whitey. Yeah, and and I don't really have too much of problem with with your list. I guess my only complaint and not really even complaint, but I've always wondered. I've never gotten the love for Dalton, and I know we talk about this. Like I'm sure we talk about this a lot, and I was because I was a pretty young fan in '93. I was only 9 years old. But looking at Dalton's numbers, I'm always like, I don't know. Like to me, I already think that in the Phillies like history, I think Real Muto has already beaten Darren Dalton as as like in the place of like let's say like catchers, Phillies catchers in their history and everything. And I know, Jason, you're probably going to be like, "What? I'm out of here," kind of thing. But I
no.
really believe that's true.
I wasn't looking at it in a comparison to JT or to Chooch. I was looking at it more as I wanted someone from the 93 team. I wanted someone to represent the modern World Series teams, which would be 80, 93, 08.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And look, I love Kruk. I love Dykstra. I love a lot of players on that team, but the only player who was with that team for a decade was Dalton. Yeah. Dalton came up through the farm system. There isn't a better representative of that post 80 team to the 93 than Dalton because he survived it all.
You are making some compelling arguments, I must admit. I agree. And I've heard also that but my only thing I guess is when I think of like Mount Rushmore, I think of like like these are the best people who have ever been on the Phillies. And I don't know I could say that about Dalton though. That's the only thing. I will say though that like when you talk about people who loved like the 93 team and everything like that, like they say that Dalton was a real leader. I mean, he was kind of the glue. He was the what do they say? The straw that stirred the drink. I think I've heard that one before.
Okay.
So yeah, you've never heard that expression before?
I have not. That's a new one.
Oh, okay. Maybe anyway, but and that's I guess that's my only thinking about Dalton, where like I have a lot of respect for him, and but I don't know. I don't know if I could ever put him in my personal Mount Rushmore. Which
well, that's what this is our personal ones. So
right, yeah. So I'm not about to like spit on you or something, being like, how dare you? You don't understand the Phillies at all. Or something like we're on like some ESPN show, being like where they're just like yelling at each other the entire time, But so my four, and I admit I had trouble paring this down because I had six to begin, and Jason was like, you can only have four, and I was like, who made up that rule that we can only have four on the Mount Rushmore? And Jason was like, because there are only four presidents on Mount Rushmore. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Touche.
I was like, because it's funny because I did look at everybody else's list and I was like 4, 4, 4. I was like, well, I'm bucking the trend. I'm adding people on. But
you rebel, you.
So my original list, I had of course Michael Jack Schmidt. That one was for you, Jason. I had Chase Utley. I had Steve Carlton. I had Jimmy Rollins. Now those are the four that I had. Now I also had two. I had Harper, for like the current team, and a bit of an old timey pick. I had Robin Roberts, who I think
another great historical pick.
Yeah, that's right. And when it comes to the 1950s, I think Roberts was dominant. And I mean he was so good. But if I have to pare this down and I have to take two away, man, I hate to bump Harper off, but I think I'm going to bump Harper off for right now.
We can add this to the discussion.
Okay.
So continue.
So how so? What's up?
No, pare down your list, then we'll talk about Harper.
Oh, okay. So I guess I would get rid of, like I said, I would get rid of Harper, and maybe Rollins also, as much as it pains me. And then I would go with Schmidt, Utley, Carlton, and Roberts. So then I have, two pitchers, two hitters, and I like that. So that's it makes it a little bit more difficult. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No. Before we get into the discussion of future players or current players being added to the list, I find it very interesting that none of us picked Rollins, because I actually thought for sure, knowing Brig, I thought he would go with Rollins because of the J-Roll swagger, his attitude. Because as I said in our group chat for our fantasy baseball league, Utley was the workhorse, Rollins was the spark, and you didn't have that run without the two of them. But J-Roll had the career in numbers to back up his talk.
He did. And thinking about it, you really could go either way with Jimmy and Chase, because Chase obviously had the numbers too. He didn't win the MVP like Rollins did, but he might have if John Lannon hadn't hit him in the hand, I think, in 2007. Then because Utley missed I think a month because of that. We still ended up winning the division. Take that, Mets. So I don't know. I like Rollins, but I feel like Utley's peak was maybe better than Rollins' peak. But please continue. You were going to say something, Jason.
No, well, I was going to say that Rollins is, in the case of an argument for him on a non-subjective Mount Rushmore with the Phillies, is that he's the all-time hits leader.
Yeah.
But I think as much as... Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's definitely hard to ignore also.
It is.
And so, yeah. And now I almost feel like I want to bump Utley and put Rollins up there. I don't know, man.
Well, enough Jimmy Rollins discussion.
That's what these. Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's what's good for these types of conversations where you can talk about that. So, but heck, yeah. I think when you look at the other ones, obviously Schmidt is going to probably be on everybody's list unless they just don't know Phillies baseball that much. I think Carlton would probably be on a
history
lot of
to not have
lists.
Schmidt on this list.
That's right. Yeah,
it's not just Phillies.
That's true. You'd be you must have lived in a cave, I guess. Let me see here. Now, Robin Roberts, though, who is, obviously another classic addition. He was almost a 300 game winner. He won 286 games. He had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight years of winning 20 plus games. And then the 7th year, he won 19 games. So he was pretty consistently good for his pretty much his whole career in Philadelphia. He hit and even then he moved on to Baltimore, I guess, later on in the early 60s, and he still had a couple of good years with them. So I feel like there's really no way that I couldn't put Roberts on there. But I feel like I've told this story before, but when I was younger, not when I was younger actually, my grandfather had a bar in South Philadelphia, and in a lot of the old Phillies, this was after Prohibition to the 70s or something. So this was a long time ago. So a lot of the Phillies would come to this bar, and Robin Roberts was one of the ones that used to come to his bar occasionally, after games. And my aunt actually got his autograph once, but she didn't have anything on her, a pen or something. So he signed it in a crayon. That it was the only thing that she had on her. So so for years she had this ball signed by Robin Roberts in crayon. And then she gave it to me, So So Robin Roberts always has a bit of a special part in my heart. Just because of that too. But other than that, yeah, I think that's pretty good for our Mount Rushmore. What do you do you want to switch and talk about Schwarber now? What do you think?
Yeah, let's because we are halfway through this episode and we got some stuff to talk about. Do we want to go back to May, or do we just want to ignore May and act like it didn't happen?
Let's ignore May. Like it didn't happen. I know that we hit a rough patch in May. So what is going to be like May? I don't think there was any May.
Let's not lie to the audience. We just didn't want to talk negatively about the team. That's why we didn't do anything last month. It was too bad. We didn't want to talk about it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, because I think I was like, you want to record these? Was like, no. No, and and heck, there wasn't really a lot to talk about either, other than Harper coming back. And Harper, like, I don't know, is he an android? Do you think he's an android? Do you think
I think he's a robot?
He's Wolverine. I like that. And
look at the facial hair. Look at the ability to heal.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
I will say I'm worried that his power isn't back yet, but I think it will come back. I think he's just I think he's still recuperating. Plus, he's still batting like 300.
Yeah, he's doing exactly.
But yeah, yeah, but yeah, hey, Schwarber still hitting those June bombs. I went to the game a couple weeks ago where it was Phillies Dodgers, and Phillies had a late lead 4-1. And then Mookie Betts and Freeman went back to back. I think it was in the 7th. And all of a sudden it was 4-4 because Mookie Betts' home run was a 2-run homer. And then Freeman hit another shot. And then, of course, Phillies get 2 quick outs in the 9th. Schwarber comes up and just puts one in the seat. We all go home happy. It was great. It was a game to go to. It was a lot of fun. And that was they give away a Dick Allen bobblehead too, which I love the bobbleheads. I'm there for the bobbleheads. Give me the bobbleheads, and I'll display them forever. But that's just what he does. It's like in June, he's like, it's like he's like asleep for April and May, and then all of a sudden, like he's some kind of sleeper agent. June rolls around, and then he's like, I am awakened. And he starts hitting these bombs. Because what is he? He's hit 2 leadoff home runs, I think, in the past week also. Yeah. I know one was against the A's, and one was
the Diamondbacks.
Who the other one was against? Oh, it was against the Diamondbacks. Okay,
that's the only other team they played on this West Coast loop.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. He's still only batting like 177 or something like that.
Yeah, I think Sunday it was 162, and then he hit that first home run, and then it bumped up.
Let's see. So yeah, right now he is batting. The batting average right here. Oh, 187. Yeah, but his OPS is almost 800. And his OPS plus is 115. He's still 15% better than a league average. So it's not even July yet. He already has 20 home runs. So we're looking at potentially another like 45 home run season from him if he keeps it up. But the other thing, I think Schwarber has a lot of the intangibles that you mentioned Dalton having also. Like I think he's a real leader on the team. And I think his track record also seems to speak for itself. It seems like whenever he goes to a team, they win,
Yeah.
Whether it be, the Cubs, he was on the Red Sox for a little bit. They played well. And then obviously last year we went to the World Series. He was on the 21 Nationals, but they didn't really do anything. But the Nationals.
The Nats are gonna nat.
But yeah, Nats are gonna nat. Right. But other than that, yeah. So what are your thoughts though about Schwarber? I've been rambling here.
No, you're good. I'm right there with you. I'm happy he's finally heating up. Him heating up is good for the team as a whole, and you know what? And I think that sparks other guys on the team.
Yeah.
Because JT is starting to finally heat up as well. Like they're at the same pace at this moment as far as just getting on base, getting hits, moving guys. I sometimes I struggle with a lot of the guys' propensity to want to hit home runs. Let's just get the ball in play and move guys. I'm always going to be a small ball guy. So that's always the cross in baseball. Do you want home runs or do you want small ball? God, we can't have them together apparently. Yeah. Why not both?
I know. Yeah. And I think a real dark horse candidate actually for the All-Star game this year is Scott. I mean, he's almost batting 300 right now. I mean, he's just been playing. I mean, and I think he feels like he's been playing some good defense also. Also, I've been really impressed with Cody Clemens. Also, I want to shout out to Clemens because, I mean, he feels like, I don't know, he feels like he fits the team really well. And I was sad to see Maton and Wheeling go, but I think Soto has kind of started to put it together a little bit, and Clemens, yeah. I was like, who am I talking about now? But yeah, I mean, I saw what the game that I went to also. Against the Dodgers, Phillies Dodgers, Clemens made this great play at first base also, nabbing this line drive. And then of course, he hit the walk-off against who was that? Now I'm completely blanking again. He hit that single to walk off that one team, but now I can't think about who it is though.
Was it Detroit when Detroit was in town?
Oh yes, it was Detroit. Yes, you are right.
And you know what? Let's roll back here a bit. Let's roll back here a bit to Detroit and to Nick Maton. You were a big Nick Maton fan. I was disappointed in how he carried himself in the series against the Phils.
How so?
He was too much of a hothead. I think he came in looking to one-up the team that traded him, and I get that, and I respect that. But you can go out there and you can be a professional about it, or you can go out there, and he kind of threw temper tantrums the way he acted. And it was a little unbecoming, and I think maybe in the long run we dodged a bullet by getting rid of him.
Maybe. And I must have missed this completely because I knew he hit the 2-run homer against us the one day, but I didn't really see him throwing much of any kind of hissy fits or anything. But
he was chirping a lot. He was talking smack a lot. He was just
okay.
And it wasn't in a joking around playing the game kind of way. It was in an aggressive.
I can understand that though, especially when a team trades you. I mean, this especially because he was playing. I think I always saw, like I said, that he was a bit of a gamer. I think he came up big lots of times when we needed him to. So I think when we kind of trade that person, I think it could definitely create a little bit of a scar, especially when I think we were the team obviously that drafted him too.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna have that chip on his shoulder a little bit.
But I mean, big picture, I look at it like they traded him and now he can play every day. Whereas here in Philly, he wasn't going to be playing every day. He's getting more time to grow and develop in Detroit than he was ever going to get in Philly. This is just a better situation for him. But let's move on because I know you have a topic you want to get to.
It's true, I do. And I was going to say also the same really could be said for Mickey Moniak, who was playing pretty well in Anaheim. I wanted to see actually how he's doing right now. I haven't looked at his stats for a while. All right, so he's fallen back to earth. Well, no, actually, no. I was looking at something else. So he's batting .310 right now, 6 home runs. He already has a 1.3 WAR for the Angels. So he's having a great year actually for the Angels. But anyway,
and you know what? Not mad about that. I liked Moniak. I liked him in Double-A when I'd go to Reading Phillies games. I'm happy that the change in scenery is doing good for him. I'm not going to be mad if someone left the team or got traded away and they're doing for another team what they weren't able to do for the Phils, because they're still young guys. They have room to grow.
Yes, I mean, and you never want to be that number one pick that's a bust. Also, by the way, that Phillies game, I really want to get to this next topic, but I just want to say one more thing. That Phillies game that I went to, where it was Phillies Dodgers. Before the game, they gave his National League championship ring to Mark Appel. The guy that we traded. He was on he was drafted by the Astros first overall.
Yep.
He never made it to the major leagues. He finally made it to the major leagues last year with the Phillies and everything. I love his story. And and I follow him on Twitter, and he's a very positive guy too also. So to see the Phillies take some time to give him his National League championship ring, like that, I thought that was that was pretty classy. Now, though, the topic that I wanted to bring up, though, which I think Jason and I also have some different thoughts about, though, is that obviously Scott Rowland was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame back in, I think it was January, might have been February, but so a couple weeks ago it came out then that the Phillies are going to honor him and they're going to put him on their their Wall of Fame, very deserved. Jason's like, yeah, right, and the thing, and and then we're gonna have like I guess a day for him. I think it's in September.
August 12th or August 11th.
Yeah, but he can't. But he can't make that. But he can't make that. So I think they changed it to September 22nd for him or something like that. Jason again is like, yeah, right, making it for doing it for Scott. Now back in 2002. I hated Rowland. When he left the Phillies, I was really hurt because Rowland was like my first favorite Philly, I guess. Even the '93 team, like I said before, I was young, so I didn't really have any favorite player. I liked Dave Hollins a lot, but he wasn't really like
great guy in that
the
team.
Guy. Yeah. But so I always had, I guess, a thing for the third baseman because I like Rowland too, and I like Todd Zeile when he played for the Phillies. Todd Zeile, that's a name you don't hear often.
Pedro Feliz.
So yeah, Pedro Feliz, right? So Rowland was traded and everything, and like everybody in Philadelphia, I was pretty pissed. I wasn't happy. But it was a huge bummer. But time heals all wounds and everything, and I'm kind of ready to welcome him back into the fold, like the Flyers did with Eric Lindros a couple of years ago. I don't know if our listeners or any of them are hockey fans, but Eric Lindros had a very bad falling out with the Flyers in 2000, like way worse than anything that Rowland went through with the Phillies. And a couple of years later, he was, welcomed back. They retired his number, and now I think he's like a special advisor on the team. Like, I would love something like that to happen to Rowland. What I think is going to happen, I put this up on Reddit also, in like a comment thread. Jason, I know you frequent Reddit, so you might have even seen this, but what I think is going to happen is whenever he actually comes to the stadium, which I think is in September. I don't think he's actually doing the day in August. I feel like a lot of people are going to boo and boo and boo and boo. Some people will probably cheer, but I think overall, like a lot of people are going to be booing. What I really hope happens is this: Rowland will step up to the mic. He'll be hearing the boos and everything because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm not going to be like I'm not going to say no. We're going to welcome him back. He's going to get booed. So he's going to step up to the mic. He'll hear the boos, and he'll kind of smile to himself a little bit, and he'll say into the microphone, "Well, I guess I deserved that." And then he'll say something to the effect of, "My time in Philadelphia was rough, but it's time that we put a rest for that here today. The Phillies have built a first-class organization, and I'm proud to say that I was a part of it." I think if he says something like that, if he acknowledges that that his time in Philadelphia wasn't great and that he wants to kind of put that all behind him, and he acknowledges that the Phillies are, a pretty solid franchise right now, and they are, I think that that's all the damage control he would need to do, and I think he'd. I mean, a lot of people, maybe Jason. I could already tell you're like the steam's coming out of your ears, and everything. I mean, like that's all I would need, honestly. For to invite Roland back into my heart as like a maybe not an all-time Philly because he's obviously going to go into the Hall as a Cardinal, but just as kind of like a way of putting out the flames once and for all. Jason, I've talked long enough. What are your thoughts on this, though?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I don't think he's that classy.
Really? I'm very surprised. I've never gotten the
I think
that he wasn't classy.
I've always had the feeling he's a very egotistical player.
Really?
Very much like a Roger Clemens. So I would be very surprised if he takes the high road. I will also be very surprised if he makes it to the September 22nd game against the Mets for his induction. I can see him having another personal schedule conflict.
I hope that doesn't happen because, and I hope he's not afraid to come back to Philadelphia. But because I put this up. Well, somebody put it up on Reddit, I guess. When it came out that we were going to have a game for him and everything, and I expected Reddit is usually when it comes to sports, at least I feel like Reddit is relatively even keeled. Not maybe so
very
maybe
very
even,
knowledgeable.
Maybe so. Yes, yeah. I was going to say more so than like Facebook or like YouTube comments, something like that. Reddit is generally pretty knowledgeable. I was actually really, really, really surprised that most of the fans on Reddit were not happy about the Roland situation. Like I was thinking that a lot of people might think closer to the way I did, that like, well, the time is, it's past. Let's celebrate him and everything. Nope. And so that really worries me actually a lot for when he comes back, because here's another thing that's going to happen then. If we boo, then the national media is going to come out and be like, look at these animals here in Philadelphia. Boo!
For the record,
the Hall of Fame players.
For the record, our fans didn't murder someone, so
yeah,
I will say that true. Until my deathbed.
It's true. I got into an argument on Facebook the other day with a Giants fan, and he kept saying that how bad Philadelphia fans were, and I was like, yeah, well.
Your fans left someone in a coma, so
that's right. I was like, you guys stab, we boo. But anyways, I can see it coming like a mile away, though, that if it goes bad, and it might, if we boo and boo and boo, the national media is just going to go again, like, look at those animals in Philadelphia. Booing the Hall of Fame player, just like we knew how bad they were. Everything. They're going to sound exactly like that, too.
I hope they do. I look forward to that.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Nothing irks me more than the Phillies fans' reputations for being bad fans when we're not,
no, we're not.
Not at all.
But
we're great fans. Yeah.
I do too. We're passionate. We're knowledgeable. We just want players to play hard and to show up.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think that's asking too much. And you know what? We're very lucky with the team we got now, because even when they're struggling, they're still playing hard. Like Trey Turner struggled this season, but he never dogged it. He was working hard.
That's right. He's incredible. So, I will say, a way of playing hard is playing third base on a concrete slab, like Roland did. Mm-hmm.
Oh Jesus! Yeah. He's no Mike Schmidt. Anyway, we are at 35 minutes here. Let's get to some plugs. Why don't you go first, my friend?
Man, well, I don't have too much to plug. I do have a YouTube channel that it hasn't been updated for a little bit, but I'm the bearded bald baritone, and so please come check me out. I've been I've actually studied recently to become a financial advisor. So all my spare time has been with books and not with my singing voice. So unfortunately, I haven't had much to do when it comes to singing. But if you want to go and look at my old videos, the bearded bald baritone on YouTube. Thank you.
And you can find me every other week, except this week, on the Not Another Sports podcast. We're taking a break this week because we have personal schedule conflicts. Sorry, I'm gonna jam that home as far as I can because that's the Scott Rowland terminology.
I got it. No, I got it.
But the last episode, myself and my best friend David did, we talked about the PGA merger with LIV, and we talked about MLB City Connect jerseys, of which you know my very passionate thoughts on. Also, I did a couple of guest shots on the Other Shit podcast, which is a pop culture podcast with a pro wrestling lean. You can find both those shows wherever you get your podcasts, and the Not Another Sports podcast is on YouTube. With that, I think this episode's out of here.
Out of here.